Okay, hello everyone. Good to see we have a number of people joining already. Welcome to the hackathon. We're going to give it a few more minutes just to let people get logged in successfully to the MeTecho. For some people, this may be their first time attending the hackathon or attending this way, and can take a little while to get things set up correctly. Not to mention the time changes, and hopefully that all of you are here, so that's a good sign. But I know with Europe switching their clocks on a different schedule from, say, the US, that just adds a little bit of extra confusion. So if you're here, congratulations that you've navigated all that correctly. Hopefully others will as well. And we'll get started in just a few minutes. Okay, hello again, everyone. I think we'll go ahead and get started. I see a few people are still joining, but in the interest of everyone's time, this may be a very challenging time for you to join, and my apologies for that, but thanks for being here. And this session is really meant to be quite informal. I'm going to run through some slides, but it's mainly to share some information, get questions answered that you may have. So feel free to jump in using the chat at any time. We don't have a huge number of people, at least not yet. So it's also fine for you to just jump in using the mic. Either way, make sure you just get my attention or Barry's, and we'll do what we can to help answer your questions. And if I go over something too quick, feel free to stop me at any time. This session is really here for all of you. It shouldn't take anywhere near the full hour, but we can always spend time diving into topics. And at the end, if anyone wants to share a bit of more information about the project, I know you may be leading a project, and if so, thanks for doing that. And there's a lot of information on the wiki as we'll show, but I'll invite you to say a few words about your project as well if you'd like to. So with that, let me go ahead and jump in. So for those of you who have, this is your first hackathon, or perhaps you've only attended recently and experienced online hackathons, This is more what a typical IETF hackathon where we are able to meet in person looks like. In fact, this was one of our biggest and best. We had, if you can believe it, close to 400 people in the room at one time, which actually was a problem in and of itself, but it was great to see. And the dynamics are a bit different now with people spread over geographies and time zones. We still have a lot of great participation, which is fantastic, but you know, we meet online, and there's a lot more flexibility then in the schedule as to exactly how you go about doing that. So in order to help with meeting online, we have some great tools. First of all, this Niteco tool that we're using right now to do this kickoff. But also, if you haven't checked out Gather yet, I highly recommend that. We'll be making use of the Gather space. What you see up on the screen, and I'll go into it in a bit more detail later on, is a bit of the IETF, of the hackathon space. And we just have tables there, much like you saw in the previous slide, where people can arrange, teams can arrange around a table, and just to facilitate chatting and working within your team. So, you know, if you haven't checked out that space yet, I recommend you do. By the way, these slides are uploaded. You'll see there's a lot of links in here. You can click on them to get directly to a lot of the things that I'm showing in this presentation. First of all, I should probably step back a little bit, especially for those of you who haven't been to many of these hackathons. Really, why are we here and what's the whole goal with these? And the idea is to really accelerate the work we're doing in the IETF around standards by taking some of that speed and collaborative spirit that we see with open source and bringing it into standards. Not that it wasn't there before, but you know, this is a new way or a way to engage with more people around more than just what's written down in the specifications, but ideally working on code that has some correlation to what we're standardizing to help make the standards better and easier to implement and more accessible to developers and others in general. And also to just attract more people who might not have considered themselves standards people until they realize that, hey, there's a lot of great software development that goes along with it. And perhaps that's more the angle in which they choose to and enjoy participating in the IETF. And we welcome you and encourage you to get involved. And we have a great mix of people in the IETF with different experiences. And the hackathon's a great way to connect and collaborate with people. So the note well, all of what we do within the IETF, we follow the rules or are under the rules of the note well. If you haven't taken a look at that yet, it's a good thing to have a look at it. You can see several BCPs referenced there. A lot of it's sort of common sense, but a lot of it's very good to keep in mind, especially in terms of your contributions to the IETF and what that means in terms of perhaps patents, copyrights, IPR, those types of things. However, one of the things I like to point out is that when you're working in the hackathon, you're typically working on code, and there should be a license associated with that code. And so the code that you're actually working on is probably not in and of itself an IETF contribution. Rather, it's governed by the license that is in place. In the example I show here, it's under the Apache 2.0 license, which is a common open source license. And so then the way you interact with that community and with that code and the terms of use there and of contribution are as set out in that license. However, when we do have the presentations on Friday, and you're presenting what you did in your project, now those are IETF contributions as usual, as if you made one in a working group session, as an example. And okay. Now, just a reminder about inclusive language. This is important in that, you know, we all come from different backgrounds and have different experience. We want to make this a very welcoming place and a very safe place and a friendly place for people to work. So, you know, we tend to have a lot of fun and make jokes and that, but just be sensitive to other people who may come from a different background. And, you know, we really want to welcome everyone. And so just keep that in mind. Let's participate civilly, and when we have differences in opinion, let's just be respectful in how we deal with those. Historically, the hackathon's been a great venue for that. So I absolutely expect that to continue, but it also doesn't help to, or it doesn't hurt to show the reminder. Okay, I mentioned projects at the beginning, and we have a great list of projects. What I'm showing right now is a snapshot of the wiki. If you go there, you'll see all of the projects that we have planned for the hackathon, and the people who we call champions, who are actually leading those projects, have put together some really nice information that helps you have a better understanding both of what the project is and then how to reach out to them if you want to participate. And so now or after this session is over, if you haven't already, is a great time to engage with those champions and just start discussing with them about how you can be involved in the project. If you're not sure which project to join, something you might want to check out is this lost and found area. And what we did was we put this together as a place where, let's say you have areas of interest, but you haven't found a project that really resonates with you yet. And you want to let others know, hey, these are things I can help you out with if your project needs them. On the flip side, if you're leading a project and you really need some a certain skill set or someone with that skill set to help you with your project, you can also sort of advertise that need here. So the lost and found is to help match up people with projects a little bit better. And so we clear it out at the start of each hackathon. You'll probably see there isn't too much information there, but feel free and don't be nervous about adding your information there. If you have a need in your project for people, or if you're trying to, or if you're interested in just helping other projects. Hopefully that'll be a good resource for you. Now the agenda, we're doing the kickoff right now. As I said, it shouldn't take the whole hour, but we should, in any case, certainly finish within the hour. And then really the whole week is just up to the individual projects to decide how and when to meet. And we did this because of time zones and realizing that it could be very challenging for people to meet at specific times. So each team can at least try to find a time and place, or multiple times and places, and ways of working together that work for their team. So the team schedule that you see a picture of in the links there as well is the way that we help organize that. If you enter into the team schedule the times and the ways that your specific project team wants to meet, that can really help everyone within the team, and even some new people that you might not have been aware of that wanted to work with you. Now they know how to engage with you. So I highly recommend Project Champions. If you haven't yet, get your information up there. Those participating in projects, take a look, because that's a good way to figure out how to get involved. And then at the same time that this session started, we have the hackathon closing on Friday. And that's really probably one of the most interesting parts of the hackathon. That's when all of the teams come together to share what it was that you actually accomplished during this hackathon. Now, because we have many teams, we keep those presentations very short, but this is a great time for you to share that information. And so we have it scheduled for 2 hours. On Friday, starting at the same time that we started here at 1500 UTC and ending at 1700. So mark that on your calendars now. You'll see that there is a schedule for the results presentation. And what that schedule is, if you click on that link, you'll be able to, if you're leading a project team or the one presenting on behalf of a project team, you can sign up to say, yeah, I'd like to present our results during that. And that way we get a list of all the teams, and everyone else knows what they're going to hear if they sign into this results presentation. So if you plan on sharing results on Friday, and it doesn't matter if you didn't accomplish everything you wanted to, just share what you did do and what you did learn. So if you're interested in doing that, I encourage you to add your team name to the results presentation as soon as possible. And Robert, you mentioned it would be nice to get an ICS off the team schedule page. Yeah, that is a good point. Yeah, we could certainly try that. And one of the challenges is the list of teams is constantly updating, but I guess it's not too different than a agenda for a meeting. So yeah, that's actually a great idea. We'll have to look into that. And if you can help make that happen, Robert, that'd be great. Fantastic. Okay, so now Gather. I mentioned that a little bit earlier. I'm just going to go through it in a little bit more detail in case you haven't checked it out and to just help you with some of the initial navigation. The space for this IETF meeting, IETF112, is a little bit updated and hopefully in some really nice ways. What you see here is kind of the main area when you first enter the IETF hackathon space. And there's something called the mini map that lets you kind of see a high level view of the whole space. And that's what I've done here. You can see the arrows pointing to the right near the bottom of the page, leading you to the hackathon space. So if you follow that, you'll enter into the room where the hackathon is and where all of those tables that I showed you earlier are. And the link is at the top there. It's also on the wiki. So when I do follow those arrows and I go into the hackathon space, this is what you see. And in the background, I have kind of the zoomed in view of the space. And then what I did was I used the mini map here so you can see the entire space. So there's 8 tables there. Project teams, if you want to, you're welcome to kind of use those tables. If you want to meet there when your team is working, say, oh, such and such project team, we're going to meet at table C at, 1400 UTC to 1600 UTC or whatever works for you. And then, you can gather around that table. You'll see that you're able to enter into an audio and video conference with each other. A couple of nice features that are in there is if you go up to these, the whiteboard, which you see on the right-hand side, you can see it kind of lit up in yellow. Similarly, on the left-hand side, you can see a notepad on table C that's lit up in yellow. You can interact with that. So your team can share a notepad, which is powered by HedgeDoc, or one of these whiteboards that's built into the Gather space. So that's a nice way for your team to collaborate as well. And I encourage you to try that out and make use of it, make it a little bit easier for your team to collaborate on things. Of course, if you're using Zoom or WebEx or whatever your video conference, another video conferencing system, that's fine too. But all of that's also built into Gather, and I encourage you to check it out and see what works best for your team. So some of you may have seen, Michael was mentioning this at the beginning of the call as we were waiting for people to join, the IETF VPN network, which is we call HackNet. And what that is many of you, of course, are working on IETF protocols. Oftentimes, it's very important for you to be on a shared network, maybe a shared like L2 network. You need that capability in order to be able to do some of the testing that you want to be able to do as part of the hackathon. But for whatever reason, we always at each IETF meeting have an IETF network. And what you're able to do now is you're able to VPN into that IETF network, which is available. And there's some instructions there about the devices you need in order to do that and exactly the configuration to get added. So check and see if that's useful for your team and if they're using that. Hopefully you've already started getting this set up as you need specific devices, in this case a MikroTik device. But it's a really handy functionality that helps teams work on various IETF protocols together. Now I mentioned the results presentations, and this is one of my favorite parts of the hackathon. Even though it comes near the end, and I'm always a little sad for the hackathon to end, but it's fantastic to see what people did. And so this is where we share just some of the highlights of our project, what it was we were trying to do, what actually got accomplished, what things we learned along the way, perhaps some important things that your team wants to bring back into your working group related to things you discovered about the draft you were trying to implement or the protocol that your group is standardizing. So those are fantastic learnings to take away from the hackathon. That's really one of the big goals of it. We also like to know about collaboration that happened, like perhaps your project was really about a protocol that's being worked on in one specific working group, but maybe you interacted with people from other working groups, or maybe even from people outside of the IETF, maybe from open source communities or another standards organization. Those types of things are really great to see, and the hackathon helps foster that type of collaboration, and beyond just the regular work group collaboration. And so we like to hear about that as well. Although we also, it's very important to keep these presentations short, and I'll stress this again on Friday, but I wanted to make that point now. 5 minutes at the very most, because we do have a number of them to get through. We only have 2 hours. Again, it could be a very inconvenient time for a lot of people. So, whether we woke up early or we're staying up late. So we want to value people's time. And the idea is that it's a short presentation so people at least understand what you did. And then they can always reach out to you later that day, the next week, whenever, and get a deeper dive into what you did. This is just to give that very high level view and to sort of connect people or help them realize that they have a reason to connect. Now, in order to help with all that we're doing around code, we created this IETF Hackathon GitHub organization. And we use this for a number of things. Some of you have repositories there for the code that you're working on, and that's fantastic. Of course, your code can exist anywhere. You probably want it to be publicly available somewhere so that, of course, all of you can access it and work on it. If you need or would like to have a repository created for your project for sharing code, let me know. I can get that created for you. But it's also within this IETF Hackathon GitHub org is where we keep our, where we upload the project presentations that we'll be doing on Friday. So there is a specific repository created for this IETF Hackathon. I'm showing it there. It's IETF112 project presentations. And if you click into that, you'll find a README that gives you a lot of great information about how to get, first of all, like if you're going to upload a project presentation into that repository, you need to be a member of the IETF GitHub organization. And so sign up now, get yourself added as a member. And then once you're added as a member, you'll have write access to that repository. And that way you'll be independently able to upload and update your presentation there. For those of you who are familiar with GitHub, you might think, oh, why don't I just send Charles or Barry, why don't I send a pull request and they can add it in? And that's true, but in general, there's a lot going on with the hackathon, and you may send a pull request and we might not get to it in time, and then your presentation won't be there. So what we prefer to do is set you up as a member, and that way you can be responsible for getting your own presentation there. Now, since we make a lot of different people members and there's privileges that go with that, we also, as we should be, are worried about security. So we ask that you enable two-factor authentication on your GitHub account, and also to make it just easier for us to know who's who, make sure you add your name to your GitHub account. A lot of us have sort of a cryptic, say, username, as we do with perhaps our emails, but add the name by which you're known as well. That really helps so that we're able to find each other and know who each other is in GitHub. Now, to help with the results presentations, we put together a couple templates, one in PowerPoint format, if you're comfortable with doing PowerPoint presentations. The other one is an HTML format. And you can use either one and then use that to both kind of format your presentation and just get it started, as you typically would with a template for anything. Of course, you're completely free to not use those templates. You can do the presentation on your own using whatever format you want. Just keep in mind those questions or those things that I said we like to highlight, what it was you were trying to do, what you accomplished, what you learned along the way, and some interesting highlights about perhaps things you're going to bring back into your working group. So that's important that you have the right information in there. Hopefully the template's useful and helpful to you, but whatever works best for you, you're free to do. And then on Friday, when we do the results presentation, typically we have you present your own presentation. You'll be able to come on, share your audio and video, and then walk through your slides. Each team kind of presents their own presentation, and Barry and I will help you with that. So I also need to say a big thanks to CNNIC. They are our running code sponsor for IETF 112. And so thanks to them, we're actually able to have this hackathon. There are still expenses, even though we're meeting virtually. They're a little bit different than a lot different than when we meet in person, but we still need that support to keep everything, make all these great tools available. And so CNNIC, thanks to them for sponsoring us so that we could have this hackathon. And so with that, I know I went through a lot of information quickly. I hope it was useful. Very happy to have any questions that you haven't had answered yet, if anyone has those. And the other thing to think about is if there aren't any questions, then I'd also encourage any of you who want to say a few words about your project. You can do that now to help others just know what it is you're planning on doing and share that information. That's perfectly fine as well. So do we have any questions? I know one thing I forgot to mention is Barry, my co-chair, and I will be online, as best we can. You can find us in Gather. We have the alias hackathon chairs at IETF.org. You can send us an email and we'll try to get an answer to you. Of course, we won't be online and monitoring those things 24/7, but we'll do what we can and try to help you get your questions answered. If anything pops up during the course of the week. And Lars, I see you're in the queue. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I don't have a question. I just wanted to say thank you guys for showing up for this. The virtual hackathon is not quite the same as the in-person event, and it's really good to see that we have many participants again. And thanks, Charles and Barry, for running it in the virtual format as well. And we're all hoping that we can be back in person again soon.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. I'm wearing one of my T-shirts, as I have a real collection of them from all the hackathons that have happened in the past, and it's certainly pros and cons. I think a lot more pros when we meet in person, but yeah, great to do what we can, and there are some benefits that we have the whole week and a lot more flexibility and a lot more space too. So we'll take the good with the bad. But yeah, thanks for that, Lars. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, I'll let those of you who it's very late go to sleep, and those of you who it's early get that next cup of coffee. And we have a lot of coding to do, so I'll let you get to it. Enjoy. We'll be here to help during the week. Again, make sure that you take a look at the wiki. All the links are there. And important things are, if you're going to share a results presentation, get yourself signed up on the list for Friday when we have that results presentation scheduling page, and get yourself added to the IETF GitHub repo and the IETF hackathon GitHub org. And again, I'll help you with that if you have any problems with it. And okay, great. One last chance if there's any other questions. Otherwise, we'll end this, and we'll post the recording once it's available. And thanks to the MeetEcho folks. I really liked this ability to show the slides, and without having to, have them appear in full screen without having it take over my full screen when I make PowerPoint, when I run it in presentation mode. This was fantastic. Okay. Well, hey, thanks again, everyone. Have a great hackathon, and I'll see you during the week. Bye-bye.